let's talk about Heroic. Obviously, Heroic have done great work, haven't they, with rebuilding competitive teams via their coach Saw and their apparatus around them. And I've said during the Roster Mania, they've made a ton of money by selling players onto bigger organizations for a lot of money. I think in the last 2 years, they probably banked something like 5 million, maybe more, just on player sales alone. And yet they've hung in the pocket and still been able to be competitive. You know, it's like they are very reminiscent of Copenhagen Wolves in that sense. They've got a great eye for players. They've built another team which looks to have at least one good player on it that people hadn't have heard of and might do better than people give it credit for, even though they've had all of those star names stripped out by Falcons and Team Liquid. Anyway, they made another transfer, and it was one of the first times that maybe there might be some sort of faltering decision that's been made by them, something that isn't quite right, and it was over by a purchase of Nilos or Nilos or Nilosh. How you again can tell me how it's pronounced, and this is Nilo. So this is Metisport. Metisport are another one of these tier 2 teams that have done well. And this is the CEO of Metisport in an interview. By the way, not winning the battle of the hairline. Something I can identify with. At this point, you just have to let it go, mate. I'm telling you. That's get down your barber and just get that shit picked. Or get yourself to Turkey and do the other thing. One of the two. But anyway, I mean, listen. I didn't even know there was such a thing as a comb under. Anyway, they talk about the sale of Nilo to Heroic, and they say this here. He goes, the transfer was the largest Metisport has ever made, and that the buyout sum was large enough it could have made 2024 a profit-making year for Metisport. So on the sale of Nilo, right, they are saying they have successfully run the entire year at a profit. And he says here he was sold for his buyout, which was a few million. I don't think that means dollars. I think that means like krona or something. We had been able to post Nilo's sales in 2024, but we chose to do so in 2025. Had we done it in 2024, Metisport would have gone into the black, a plus, but so far we have not gone plus on our investment, as we've invested so much to move forward for the past 2 or 3 years. And so this was one of those deals where it's like, okay, they've reinvested some of the money. You know, Heroic's obviously making this money, and they've reinvested some of it back into getting this squad together, and they've picked up this player. And obviously we can take a look at the player and let's see what they were getting for their money. 20-year-old, Swedish, ratings look good. You can see in the matches the type of opponents he was playing for on Metisport. You know, these are the better teams in tier 2 in a lot of these instances, the likes of, you know, I mean, Portugal, you might not have heard of them, but this is like the mix with all of the guys like, you know, Chiron, Nickelback, and it's something that they always put together. It's like a running joke. They always call it Portugal for some reason. They've had like some decent fives down the years. You've got Zero Tenacity in here, which they're like just one of those teams that, yeah, people are always suspicious and dubious about them, but they do get results down there in tier 2. 9-9, you know, we all know them. Guys like Mantu, Faven, Rals, these are players that have played in tier 1 lineups. Monty, right? Dicker, Hades, the cunt them QQ, you know, these are the players that have been in tier 1 and gone down to tier 2, and he's putting up really good numbers against them, as you can see. I mean, like, you know, he's like actually putting up some phenomenal numbers. This is one of the players that down there in tier 2, you know, really was a standout and was earmarked to get maybe picked up by a better team. Now, Heroic, these are the kind of money moves that they're making right now. And so, obviously, this is a very good signing with a lot of upside potential to it. You know, if we were putting it in Roster Mania terms, I'd give this a thumbs up. Definitely a million miles away from an Overwatch fart noise. And I think, obviously, this is a player that definitely has future. I mean, like so many of the great Danish players, he's got that neck action. His neck isn't just long, it's long and it's got girth as well. He might be some kind of proto player, the likes of which we've never seen if we go solely on the neck test. So this looked to be a good signing. You're like, okay, they're going to have this young kid coming in. We already know from Tenier. Tenier looks to be a good signing. I was calling him TN1R. It's Tenier is what we've settled on in the casting community now. It's Tenier. And he looks to be good. Obviously, he's got problems in the sense that he might struggle to get visas because of his Belarusian nationality. So we're going to wait and see how that pans out. But certainly in his debut, looked really good. Posted decent numbers in the Heroic game so far. And a lot of people are kind of like, well, you know, maybe Heroic are one of those teams to watch. Might not have a lot of big names on the roster, but they might just do it again. And I believe that like he's going to be involved at some stage in Katowice. We will see how that pans out. But then something bizarre happened, and this is where, even with my extensive knowledge of what goes on behind the scenes, I don't really know what's gone on. And that is that they've done the signing of Nilo. He's gone through on a 3-year contract. He's joined Heroic, and okay, they've paid for this player, but he immediately gets benched. And they put this statement out. We are thrilled to have signed Linus Nilo Bergman on a 3-year deal, as we consider him one of the most exciting talents in the scene. Upon signing the deal with us and starting preparations for the season, Linus encountered personal circumstances that made the significant leap to Tier 1 Counter-Strike particularly challenging at this time. This came as a surprise to everyone, including Linus himself. While our initial plan was for Linus to be part of the starting lineup, we are committed to supporting him as he works towards his return. Now keep in mind, they're calling it a return. He hasn't even been there yet to return. Our starting 5 is locked in, and will have the chance to prove themselves. Therefore, Linus will not have a guaranteed spot. He will have to fight his way back onto the team, which I don't understand how you fight your way back into a team you were never in from the bench when you're never going to be playing. And remember, it's a 3-year contract. What have I always said in the past? If you're a pro player, don't sign contracts beyond 2 years. Never do it. It doesn't work for you. Because if at any point you fall out of favor, the contract will always say, if we bench you, you lose 70% of your pay or whatever the number is, and we're under no obligation to sell you except for the buyout that we have here in your contract, which can either be explicit or anything we decide. And you can sit there and just never play. I think if you go past 2 years, and 2 years is only for elite level players, if you go past 2 years, you're in trouble. So this is strange. I never feel comfortable speculating because this could be like a bereavement or an illness or, you know, who knows, right? But I'm going to do it anyway because I think we shouldn't be squeamish about asking questions about these big organizations making moves, particularly if we're doing it from a sporting context, which is what I'm doing it from. So I think this really reeks of lack of preparation, lack of understanding. They say it came as a surprise to everyone, including Linus himself. So I don't know what the personal circumstances could be that would prevent Linus from going straight into the team. I don't know what it would be. In fact, Linus himself, Nilo, he did put out a tweet response. He says, I'm really thankful to have signed with Heroic. Joining a Tier 1 team has always been my dream, but sometimes unexpected things happen that are out of your control. Due to personal circumstances, I need to take a step back for now. I'll take the time to work hard and come back stronger. Thank you to Heroic and the fans for your understanding and support. It means the world to me. And it's like I say, it could be a bereavement and his head isn't right. But also, there's like a flippancy in these statements and also transparency. But no one's going to be upset if you just say, I've had a bereavement and my head's not right and I want to start properly in the team. There would be no need to hide bereavement publicly, you know? You think about everyone handled the sensitivity of, you know, the sensitive issue of Carrigan's brother passing, you know, Dupree's brother passing, Hooksy's father passing. You know, we do have some standards as a community, and very often these things aren't a cause for ridicule or anything to joke about, but, you know, if anything, the community generally has a tendency to rally around the players and offer support. So I don't know if it's a bereavement, and I can't. And if it's an illness, like a sudden diagnosis, maybe you've got an illness. Well, again, you would say health reasons, but we're not saying health reasons. We're saying personal circumstances. And every time I hear the term personal circumstances used in an esports statement, personal circumstances means it's not health. Right? Sometimes it's mental health, but it's not physical. It's never physical health. And it's very rarely a bereavement. It's something else. It's something else. Personal circumstances is the code phrase that we use, for instance, when a player has a bad breakup. That's what we talk about. You know, we know that. We understand it. We hear stuff behind the scenes. Obviously, we know when a player's girlfriend's fucking cheated on them or broke up with them or whatever. Guess how we phrase it when we talk? Well, we don't just go, yeah, he got sat in the cook chair and made to look like a dickhead. We don't do that. That'd be massively unprofessional. We say personal circumstances, and that's like our coded phrase for when we're talking about those things. You know, or financial problems, personal circumstances, you know, having to move, your personal circumstances. One of the other things that this could be, and I hate to just put this out there, but this is why transparency is important, because, you know, you are going to, by definition, create speculation, because this is the strangest move of Rostermania, to sign a player on a 3-year deal, and then he immediately goes on the bench, and it isn't clear if he'll ever play for Heroic, by the way, based on what they've said. It could also be that they've got something in the background, potential investigation, or maybe an old Steam account that Valve haven't checked or approved yet. Remember, this happened with a couple of players. I believe Kyojin might have been one of them. So it could be these things. And in which case, then you have to say to the organization and the player, well, these are things that you've got to sort out. So I have no idea, but I would urge Nilo in particular, as a young player, I would urge him to put out a transparent statement about what it is, no matter what it is. Even if you think it's going to be something so bad it's going to poison your reputation, I can tell you, as an older guy that's been around the block, as a journalist, as someone that's done PR and 100 other jobs, including Beekeeper, which wasn't a job, but everyone jokes about it being a job because I'm old Richie 100 jobs, I'll tell you that the truth is always better than the vacuum you leave and allow people to create their own narratives and their own story. People will immediately go to outrageous places, and once those rumors and false reputations settle around you, you will find it hard. Let's assume you never play for Heroic. You will find it hard to get another opportunity on a tier 1 team, which would really fucking suck because you're obviously a talented player. So I absolutely would not let this one settle. I would not let this one lie. I would talk to a PR guy. I would talk to a lawyer. I would talk to Heroic management, even if it's just an adult you trust in your life, maybe someone that helps you manage your affairs. I would talk to somebody with a bit more experience on this, because, not to be condescending, you are only 20, and I would craft a well-written statement explaining exactly what is going on, because on a long enough timeline, you're just going to wake up one day and there's just going to be rumors, and the rumors will be, oh, I heard he's not playing because of this, or I heard he was not playing because of that. I hear he's too sick to play. I hear he's just emotionally not stable. You don't want these things being attached to your reputation. And unfortunately, it's sports, so people are going to speculate. But this clumsy personal circumstances phrase, it only gets used for things that you can't really talk about in an appropriate sports setting. Bereavements, we're explicit. Health, we're explicit. We're getting better with mental health. We're even more explicit about that. You know, when the best players in the world, in the form of Astralis, are talking about having burnout and needing time off, that did, even though we can go back and forth on the motivations for that, that did move the dial forward in having that conversation collectively within the industry. It was an important milestone. Personal circumstances, unfortunately, invites speculation. And with that speculation, the speculation's never going to be good, because esports fans thrive on drama. Anyway, after that, Heroic themselves put out an update that they are bringing Madden to be the team's fifth for the Blast Bounty Finals. He will be a replacement for Tanir, who's going to stand in. And so the roster that they've got now is xCloud, Sunpius, Linus, Youngstar, and Madden, with obviously now Madden to only be there when it's Tanir that can't get the visas, and Nilo, even though he's on the bench and is part of Heroic, even when they need an emergency stand-in, he's so inappropriate to be used because of these personal circumstances. Even in an emergency, you're having to go and get players to come back. So you're essentially running a 7-man roster just to make ends meet, even though Madden's only temporary and everything else. So it's weird. The whole thing's weird, and it's like a rare misstep for Heroic. And there's no further clarification as to why any of this is sort of happening. It's just very, very... The whole thing is super weird. As the Rostermania season's kind of been wrapping up, it's kind of just a strange misstep from Heroic, and obviously a very strange situation. It's kind of crazy to see a young player that everybody wanted to see get airlifted into Tier 1, get his opportunity, immediately be benched, and then the organisation imply he just might never play, he might never make the cut, which asks the question, why did you buy him in the first place, and buy him for an amount of money that was a big enough sum, whatever it was, we don't know explicitly, but a big enough sum to run Metasport for an entire year with a profit left over. So kind of a wild one, but we'll wait and see. I have a feeling there's more to it than meets the eye, but we'll see. We will see where it goes.